Hi everyone, this is Jeremy Martin from Cinco.medicos, and I wanted to use this opportunity to make a video about San Pedro or Huachuma medicine. And first, I'll give a brief introduction about myself, and then we'll get into some ways that we can prepare for this medicine, and then discuss the actual medicine, the effects, what it's like, where it comes from, and how a ceremony is run. So, about me, my training originates from the Shipibo or Peruvian Amazon lineages, the Mahua Lopez specifically, and the Quechuan Peruvian Andes ancestral lineages. So, I honor the sacred medicines from the earth, and my mission is to help humanity to cleanse, purify, harmonize the heart, body, mind through ancestral ceremonies paired with a lot of modern bioenergetic healing techniques, talk therapy, ecotherapy. All the ceremonies that I run are professionally guided by myself and or others with many techniques. And I have 15 to 20 years experience with psychedelics, plant medicines, support groups, running integration, shamanic techniques, talk therapy, trauma-informed care, all that good stuff. So when you book an experience with me, you can be assured that you're going to be prepared, well held, and supported from beginning to end. So without further ado, let's talk about how to prepare yourself for one such ceremony and why it's necessary to even spend time thinking about this, because many tend to overlook these sorts of things. I'll say that to start off, first, you want to set an intention. Why are you drinking this medicine? Discuss that with your guide, with your facilitator, with your mentor, friends, coach, any significant others. If you have a therapist who gets where you're coming from, that won't invalidate your experience. Share it with him or her. Journal about your intention. That's a great exercise to clarify what it is that you truly want versus what you think you want to want, and keep your intentions simple. Examples of intentions would be teach me, help me, show me, blank. These can serve as your anchor during ceremony. When you're on the medicine, you can come back to it as your mantra, so to speak. So remembering why you're there, what you're looking to get out of the experience. Oftentimes it feels like our intentions weren't met in the way that we expected until we realized that upon further reflection, they were. And so that gets me to my second point, which is to come without expectations, especially fear, but having a clear intention is different from coming with rigid expectations of what the experience should be like versus what it's actually like or ends up being like. We end up fighting reality rather than existing with it when we come with expectations, and we end up being disappointed. So many people come in with fear, nervousness, or anxiety, and that's completely normal and totally okay. But I'd say it can become paralyzing at a certain point. Perhaps you've heard too many stories, talked to too many people, thought too much about it, read too many books, and don't be mistaken here. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do your due diligence. Absolutely do it. It's fine to watch videos, ask questions, and research online about your facilitators, the retreat center, and know what's going to happen. But that's proper due diligence versus trying to control the experience and feel like you can know what to expect as a result. So just be careful. Sometimes we think that the more we know, the more we can assure ourselves how something will be, and that is usually an effort to feel safe. And if we're not feeling safe, well, then something within us and or outside of us is trying to call our attention. So pay attention to that, whether it's inside or outside. Now, if we say, if the medicine is like that person's experience and we think that we're like that person, we can also subconsciously say, I'll expect those kinds of outcomes. So also be careful of not transposing your life experience onto someone else's or vice versa, because that can sometimes not just disappoint, but quite possibly confuse the experience once we've had it. And if we're coming in with high expectations or lots of fear, we can start to dwell on what if this, what if that, worst case scenarios. And the more we start to entertain these illusions in our mind, the more we're watering that seed. So just don't water it, pluck the weed. And that brings me to my third point, which is just trust. If you've done your research, if you feel genuinely called to this medicine or any other medicine, know that you're trying to heal, you're trying to go deeper within yourself. You've connected with your guide and facilitator, and you have a good understanding of what ceremony entails. These are all good reasons to feel safe. These are all allowing your process to unfold however it may. If it rains, it rains, okay? It's a good practice to be with what is. So again, if you feel some nervousness or anxiety, that's totally normal. Just don't make it paralyzing. Breathe, relax, spend some time in nature, meditate. If you have any fear during the ceremony, that's just the medicine reflecting back at you what already lives inside your mind. So trust the medicine, trust your guide, and most importantly, trust yourself. Trust is perhaps the most essential, yet often most difficult component of ceremony preparation. On a more logistical level, it's also important to fast for 12 hours or more before Huachuma ceremony. Ayahuasca is different as are other medicines, but with Huachuma, which is generally a tolerant medicine with regards to food, you do want to have an empty stomach. The emptier your digestive system, the cleaner a vessel you're going to be for this medicine to take its intended effect. Leading up to ceremony, eating organic foods, vegetables especially, several weeks to months prior can also help you process the medicine. Other medicines like kambo, even ayahuasca, can also help to make you more receptive to the medicine of San Pedro. Number 5, breathe. Again, adopting a breathwork practice in advance can help you to ground and feel safe if the medicine feels intense during ceremony, or if you're just feeling any nerves, then you can just feel more grounded and happier and more joyful and have more oxygen and less toxins in your body. So this practice can help you before, during, and after ceremony. And during ceremony, 5, keep yourself hydrated, so prepare by bringing water. If you're near sea level, 1 to 2 liters should be fine. If you're in ceremony at altitude, I suggest 2 to 3. If you really don't want to run out of water, even bringing some salt and maybe electrolytes like sodium, potassium, magnesium, phosphate, that can help to replenish electrolytes. And that's really good just in general for your heart and kidney health, your nerve function and metabolism, but it's also just key for avoiding any kind of health condition. If you already have one, if you have a history of heat stroke or adrenal fatigue, you just want to avoid exhaustion, loss of coordination, and things like that. I've only seen one issue with someone who had cardiac issues, but he had a history of a heart attack and had frankly not been clean about this before his intake process. So that wasn't a reflection of the retreat center. It was more the participant than anything else. So this is a very, very safe and tolerant medicine. That's the only health issue I've ever seen. Dress appropriately, so that would be number 6, I think we're on. If you're going to be in ceremony outside, where I spend all my ceremonies, unless it's in the deep winter, make sure that you bring rain gear, dress in layers, have protection from the sun. During the summer, excessive heat can be dangerous, and at altitude, the sun's UV radiation is also very intense. So bring an umbrella for the sun or the rain, bring a hat and sunglasses and anything else that you think you might need. All right, now let's get to the actual medicine, the juice. The sacred cactus Huachuma is also known as San Pedro, which is Spanish for Saint Peter, who was said to hold the keys to heaven. And the scientific name was Echinopsis pachanoi, Echinopsis being the genus, Pachinoi being the species. It's also Trichocereus pachinoi. But there are many other species like Peruvianus, Cuscoensis, and so forth, which have different abilities, properties, personalities, spirits, whatever you want to call it. But I actually think if we're going to call it San Pedro, which many people do, it is a good name because it is a true gateway to the divine within, to the kingdom of heaven. And I mean that quite literally. You can access heavenly divine states and keep those, best of all, with you throughout the rest of your life and access and call upon those. For anybody confused about what to call it, Huachuma is the Quechuan name. Quechua is a widespread language spoken by millions of people in the Andes. And Huachuma, which is sometimes spelled with an H or W, means head of spines. In general, about the cactus, it grows at altitude anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 meters, largely in Peru, but also in Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, and Ecuador. It's cultivated worldwide and legal in the United States. I have hundreds of cacti in my house. And for this reason, not only is it easy to grow because when you cut it, it will grow back, but also the seeds, they grow very readily and in hundreds. So this is a very easy to replenish, sustainable option, especially when we consider other options like the Mexican cactus peyote. When we consider working with mescaline, peyote is a very sacred, immensely powerful medicine in its own right, but it's highly endangered and grows very slowly. It can be very difficult to replenish due to the ongoing destruction of its native desert habitat. So I think San Pedro is an underrated, overlooked, below the radar master plant. It is both gentle and extremely powerful. It can become ayahuasca-like, if not even more powerful, depending on the brew that you're drinking, who you're drinking with, and how many times you've drunk. So there is a mistake and perhaps even a danger in venturing to describe what the name Huachuma medicine implies in terms of the experience. We have words in our language like truth, love, clarity, connection, being, knowing, awareness, presence, energy. We can say Huachuma opens the doors of perception to see things as they really are, infinite. And these are beautiful, poetic ways of describing it. But by trying to put words to it, it's really difficult to truly honor the spirit of this medicine. And to me, really, Huachuma is just a deep mystery, and one that gives me what I need when I need it at my level of consciousness. It is a wise, wise master, a very powerful, loving medicine. It's a bodhisattva, in my opinion, whose joy and peace and power and majesty all live within our not knowing how and why it works, nor how to name or describe it. So saying that we know is really ignorance of what is, because its healing power is infinite. And to say that we know how or why Huachuma is the way it is, I believe is to miss the point and the magic entirely. But generally speaking, with that preamble aside, for a species very lost in its thought, Huachuma can help us to get us out of our mind and back into our heart. It has the power to teach us to be here and now, present in this life, this existence on earth, as well as just enjoy the awesome beauty of creation and evolution. But as with most plant medicines, we must have the ears to hear and the eyes to see. And so that's why other adjunct practices, in my opinion, such as meditation, breath work, spending time in nature, journaling, music, sound healing, and so forth, can be very good for allowing us to be quiet so that we can just hear what the messages are. And sometimes those messages come through the body, other times they come in subtler ways. And so there really are an infinite number of ways to describe this wonderful being we call Huachuma or San Pedro. But it's really a relationship. As with all relationships, it's both unique because both people are unique. And so it's it's serving what the individual seeks to develop. And the more conscious and intimate and respectful we are with our relationship to San Pedro, the better, the deeper, the more intimate, the more powerful experience we're going to have. And as you can probably tell, I have truly fallen head over heels for this medicine. I could talk and wax poetic about it all day long, and I do. But only with Huachuma have I been just so amazed by its generosity. I've been so inspired by the love I've received and the marvelous gifts given for the thousands of people I've seen who have had really just magical healing experiences. This is why I call it the bodhisattva of the botanical realm. For those drawn to learn from this cactus, you really can develop a beautiful relationship with its wisdom, and that wisdom will, like its flower, flower over time, and it opens slowly and is to be savored at every moment, which is why I enjoy how long this medicine lasts. Generally 12 or more hours, depending on the strength of the brew, and it opens our heart in much the same way. Slowly, we feel deeply connected to Mother Earth, to God, to all of life. And the best part is you don't need a swami or a guru. You don't need to contort your body or live in a cave for 30 years to experience the divine directly. You can just feel it and know it for yourself. And then you can process it with a guide who has experience and who has been in these states and helped other people process too. And that can be deeply empowering rather than overpowering, which is why I again say this is a very safe and tolerant medicine, especially as an alternative to medicines which may be a little bit harder on the body, such as ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, depending on which brew you do have and who you do work with, can be also very gentle sometimes. So it depends. A word on safety. I generally, in my own practice, tend to work with light to moderate doses at the beginning, but it always depends on the person's experience, on the needs of the individual, what they're looking to do, right? So just remember that starting slow is okay. You can get a lot with a little. You can kind of put your ego aside and just remember that it's okay. You can always take more, not less, like a haircut. And your guides can help you to feel grounded in yourself and deeply connected to the earth. And so if you ever feel like you need someone, make sure that you connect with your guide or facilitator, whether that's me or someone else. Just make sure that you feel safe, okay? Maybe just a word about the cultural history, since I think it's both interesting and also relevant to how ceremonies are run today. Shamanism and plant medicine ceremonies are always dynamic. We're always learning and updating and revising to meet the needs of modern times, but those were oftentimes informed by how our ancestors did things. So the San Pedro ceremony has actually been in existence for thousands of years, more than 3,000 and possibly up to 8,000 years. It's represented in pre-Incan iconography. It appears in the art of the Chavin, the Nazca, the Moche, the Chamu, other ancient societies, denoting a cultural continuity of long duration in its ritual use. Some of the earliest evidence of use of Huachuma, for example, dates back to the Chavin era, which was, I believe, the 12th or 12th century BC. I don't know, you can fact check me on that. When power was legitimized through the belief in a small elite having the divine connection, where the shamans would derive power and authority from their claim to that connection. And so it was much more secretive and somewhat occult at those times. And now we're coming back into an era, or Pachacuti, a turning over of allowing our consciousness to awaken, and so other people also have access to the divine directly rather than through someone else. And so, for example, even in ayahuasca ceremonies, it was the shaman or the curandero who would take the medicine and use it for diagnostic tools or to connect to the spirits that they dieted with. And now the participants are also drinking the medicine. The same thing has happened with Huachuma or San Pedro. Now, the communities back then also are said to have believed and had a desire to connect with the divine. And in Andean cosmology, the cosmos is divided into three kingdoms, or pachas: the upper world, middle world, and lower world. Hanan Pacha, Kai Pacha, and Uku Pacha, represented by the condor, the puma, and the snake or serpent. And these were deities that were in close contact to the earth plane, the middle plane, and the heavenly realms. Hanan Pacha was the highest world in the kingdom of the Incan gods, such as Inti, the sun god, and his sister Mama Kia, or the moon goddess. And the Incas believed that respecting and honoring these gods would bring a good life and assist in a peaceful transition to the afterlife, as aided by the condor. Now, I won't get into this because you could literally get a PhD in this kind of thing, but it is important to just emphasize that there has been a long human anthropological use of these medicines, often honoring the earth, Father Sky, Mother Earth, the Apus or mountains, the masculine and feminine energies of stones, lakes, and so forth, and that this medicine was a gateway to divinity, and that many people knew of its immense power, and that's why there are so many ceremonial temples left over at ancient sites, Incan and pre-Incan. And when the conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, indigenous people who spoke mainly Quechua and Aymara as well began calling the sacred cactus by its Catholic moniker, San Pedro, to preserve its sacred medicine across the ages. And I'm so happy that they did, because otherwise we wouldn't have access to it or know about its healing properties, or have any idea as to how to set up a ceremonial mesa, which means table, but it's really an altar. And mesas have changed, just like I said, they're dynamic and unique to the individual practitioner, but in general, I'll just close by saying time after time, I have witnessed Huachuma deliver heavenly effects to those in search of deep healing, and whether that's on a physical, mental, or emotional level, on a spiritual level. I've also seen many seekers have their big questions answered, and then of course have many more questions after that, but I've made it my life's mission to deliver Huachuma in a manner that is both safe, practical, and deeply beneficial to those who feel truly called to it, who have clear intentions and feel prepared, and I can help with the preparation process, but who are mature and sincere. And I do this while honoring these ancestral practices, my training, the methods of preparation again, and adhering to the shamanic ceremonial techniques of Peruvian spirits and ancestors who have carried this medicine for millennia. So, to close, you might want to know what San Pedro is going to be like. Is it fun, magical, uplifting? Is it euphoric, ecstatic, wonderful? Yes, it is. It can really bring create a real sense of family and community, a lot of gratitude, just tears of gratitude, love, appreciation, and more hope. I think it's great for people with addictions, to combat depression, chronic fatigue, chronic pain. Mescaline has a stimulating effect, and there can be an initial state of lethargy, and I've seen people take mescaline naps before because they needed the rest. They were too exhausted by their own anxiety. And at the higher doses, the cactus tends to produce effects similar to the classical psychedelics such as LSD and psilocybin, and that's putting a slightly clinical description to this plant, which I don't like to do, but yes, you can have visions. Yes, you can have deep changes in cognition. Yes, you can have insightful psychological experiences, spiritual and mystical experiences, changes in perception of time and space. It is a seriously strong medicine. And so that's why it's important to have someone with a lot of experience of each dose, lots of different kinds of species. At the higher doses, it can be just as powerful as ayahuasca. So knowing how to guide, knowing that this plant is no joke, knowing that this plant needs to be respected, honored, and someone who has a trauma-informed background, such as myself, Now, that's not to toot my own horn or anything. It's just to say that if you're looking for a practitioner, these are kinds of qualities that I would look for personally. And if you're going to experience ego loss or have tremors, you want to have someone who knows how to help you through those things. Or if you're going through a deep process, you want to make sure that you feel well held. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me at cinco.medicos.com. Sorry, that's a combination of my email and my website at cinco.medicos@protonmail.com. And my website is cinco.medicos.com. So thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I appreciate you. Love and light. Thanks. Bye.